Commanders Nation, this is not a drill. While Texas faces a tragedy forcing even our archenemy to show humanity, will they cut him some slack? But in DC, a tsunami is forming between a low-profile safety with scary stats ready to crash in. Yes, he knows he's underestimated, and our franchise WR challenging negotiations with dynamite. Will the roster survive? You can't miss this. We reveal classified details of McLaurin's contract, Peter's secret plan, and how Texas will change our rivalry. This is hot. Subscribe before the video goes down, or you'll be left in the dark. Look, we know here we hate the Cowboys with all our burgundy and gold hearts, but there are moments when football takes a back seat. What just happened in Texas is exactly one of those moments reminding us we're humans before rivals. The Dallas Cowboys, together with the Houston Texans and the NFL Foundation, just announced a donation of $1.5 million to help the Central Texas communities devastated by the July 4th floods. Can you imagine the magnitude of this tragedy? We're talking about almost 100 people who lost their lives, many of them girls from a summer camp. And you know what's most shocking about all this? When Jerry Jones and the Cowboys organization talk about being devastated by hearing about the kids still missing, I tell you this, for the first time in years, I can't criticize the Cowboys. This tragedy in Kerr County has touched the entire football community. Let me paint the full picture of what happened. On July 4th, when we all were celebrating our Independence Day, torrential rains caused flash floods of the Guadalupe River in the Texas Hill Country. Do you know that area? It's one of Texas's most beautiful regions, where thousands of families send their kids to summer camps every year. This girls' camp was filled with young ones having the experience of their lives. Outdoor activities, new friendships, the freedom of summer. And within minutes, it turned into a nightmare. The river waters rose so quickly there was no time to fully evacuate. The McNair family of the Texans stated their hearts are broken over the loss and damage their neighbors in Texas Hill Country have suffered. But you know what impresses me more? They said they will continue supporting search, rescue, and recovery efforts in the coming weeks. This isn't just a PR donation. It's a real commitment. The Cowboys added $500,000 specifically to work with the Salvation Army on long-term rescue, relief, and recovery efforts. Jerry Jones, the man who normally only talks about ratings and money, said their hearts are heavy, seeing the devastation and loss of life. Do you understand what this means for us as fans? For decades, we've seen the Cowboys as these soulless corporate villains, but right now they're acting as an organization that understands its social responsibility. They're showing when it really matters, they can do the right thing. And you know what's the craziest thing about all this? They'll probably use this in their marketing eventually. But right now, in this moment, it doesn't matter. There are families burying their kids, and if the Cowboys can help even a little, they have my temporary respect. The NFL as a league also jumped on board, completing the donation up to $1.5 million. Do you think Roger Goodell really cares about these families? Probably not. But the money is real, and it's going to help real communities. Do you think this changes anything about our rivalry? I don't think so. When this tragedy ends, when families begin to heal, we'll go back to being the usual enemies. But right now, as human beings, we have to recognize there are more important things than football. And if you want to help, you can donate to the American Red Cross. Because at the end of the day, no matter what team we support, we're all part of the same human community. If that surprises you, wait to hear this. Commanders fans, do you remember when we drafted Quan Martin in the second round in 2023? Many said Adam Peters and his team were crazy to take a safety so early. But I tell you this, that could be the best decision we've made in years. Bleacher Report just released an analysis listing this Illinois safety as one of the most underrated players in the entire NFL. Do you want numbers? Here are numbers that will leave you speechless. In his second season, Martin recorded 7 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and 3 forced fumbles. But here's what's really impressive. He allowed a passer rating of only 75.3 and a completion rate of 50% in coverage. Do you know what that means? When opposing quarterbacks threw to his zone, it was practically throwing the ball to the trash. But do you know what excites me most about these numbers? Martin is improving in all the important areas. His first year was typical for a rookie. Many mistakes, some brilliant plays, but general inconsistency. His second year showed real growth. And now, entering his third year, he has all the tools to fully explode. Let me explain exactly why Martin is so special. First, his instinct for the ball. Those 7-pass defenses weren't a fluke. Martin has that rare ability to read quarterback eyes and anticipate routes. Do you remember Sean Taylor? Martin doesn't have the same physical style, but he has that same intuition to find a ball. The 3 interceptions tell an even better story. In a league where quarterbacks are smarter than ever, where they have more tools to avoid turnovers, Martin is finding ways to create opportunities. One of those interceptions was against Dak Prescott in the second game against Dallas. Martin read a comeback route perfectly and stole it from CeeDee Lamb's hands. And those 3 forced fumbles? That shows Martin isn't just a coverage safety. He can come down to support against the run, make open field tackles, and create turnovers in multiple ways. In modern football, you need safeties who can do everything. Martin is proving he can be that type of player. And you know why this is great for us? If Martin is entering his third year, and that's typically when safeties explode in this league. Look at what happened with players like Minkah Fitzpatrick or Derwin James. Year 3 is when everything connects mentally. Bleacher Report's analysis states something that has me completely crazy. Martin could be in line for a new contract. Next season, imagine a player we took in the second round just 2 years ago. Already talking about contract extension because his impact is undeniable. But you know what really has me optimistic? Martin is playing in a system that maximizes his strengths. Joe Witt Jr. is using a scheme allowing Martin to play as a true free safety where he can use his range and ball instincts. They're not forcing him to be a physical strong safety like Landon Collins. They're letting him be himself. Do you think then Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. are going to maximize Martin's potential? I think so. This defensive scheme we're implementing needs exactly what Martin can provide. A safety who can cover the deep field, but also come down to support against the run. And here's my boldest prediction. Martin is going to make the Pro Bowl this year. Do you know why? Because he's going to play alongside an improved defensive line, creating more pressure. When you have more pressure on the quarterback, safeties have more opportunities for interceptions. And Martin has already shown he can capitalize on those opportunities. Do you realize what this means for our defense? For years, we've been searching for that elite safety who can change games. Chase Young didn't turn out to be the answer. Montez Sweat was good, but not transcendent. Martin could be the player who really transforms our secondary defense. Now I ask you, isn't it amazing to finally have an organization that can develop young talent? After years watching us waste draft picks, Martin represents everything that's changing in this franchise. And you know what's best about all this? Martin is exactly the type of player Jaden Daniels needs to practice against. A smart safety who can challenge the rookie quarterback in practice. That will make both players better, but that's nothing compared to what's coming. Commanders fans, this is historic. Terry McLaurin, our star wide receiver, the heart and soul of this offense, is taking his contract dispute to a level we've never seen. And I tell you this, we're in completely uncharted territory. The situation is this. McLaurin wants $30 million a year or more, looking at the current wide receiver market. Did you see what they paid Calvin Ridley, Mike Evans, DJ Moore? McLaurin is looking at those numbers and saying, I'm better than many of those players. Why am I not earning the same? But here's what has the entire organization trembling. McLaurin has already skipped voluntary OTAs and mandatory minicamp. And you know what? That wasn't enough for Adam Peters to move a finger. But now, according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, McLaurin is threatening not to show up at training camp if he doesn't sign first. Do you realize what this means? Training camp begins in 2 weeks. And our number one wide receiver, the player who has been the only constant in this offense for the last 5 years, might not be there when Jaden Daniels needs to build chemistry with his receivers. Let me explain exactly why McLaurin is right in asking for this money. In 2024, he registered over 1,100 receiving yards with a rookie quarterback. Do you understand how difficult that is? Most wide receivers see their numbers drop when playing with young quarterbacks. McLaurin improved them. And you know what's the craziest stat? In the last 4 years, McLaurin has had over 1,000 receiving yards each season. With how many different quarterbacks? 8! From Ryan Fitzpatrick to Jaden Daniels, passing through Taylor Heinicke, Carson Wentz, and several others. This man has been productive with any quarterback you put him with. Do you want comparisons? Let me give you real numbers. Mike Evans just signed for $26 million a year with Tampa Bay. In the last 4 years, Evans has had 4,400 receiving yards. McLaurin has had 4,500 receiving yards. And what's the difference? Evans has played with Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield. McLaurin has played with a parade of mediocre quarterbacks. Calvin Ridley signed for $23 million a year with Tennessee. In the last 4 years, Ridley lost a full season to suspension and has had inconsistent numbers. McLaurin has been the definition of consistency. And you know what's the craziest part? McLaurin is right. This man has been an exemplary professional, has put up elite numbers with terrible quarterbacks, has been our best offensive player year after year. When Carson Wentz was throwing balls to the moon, McLaurin was catching them. When Taylor Heinicke was improvising, McLaurin was creating separation. But do you know what really worries me? McLaurin is entering his 6th year in the NFL. For wide receivers, that's when they start to decline physically. The Commanders could be thinking, do we want to commit $30 million a year for the next 4 years to a player who might be at his peak now? But here's my counter argument. McLaurin isn't a speed receiver who will lose his effectiveness. With age, he's a precise route runner who uses his intelligence and technique more than pure athleticism. That type of player ages better. Look at Keenan Allen, look at Mike Evans, look at DeAndre Hopkins. Smart route runners can be productive until they're 32 or 33 years old. And you know what's the irony of all this? The Commanders finally have a quarterback who can maximize McLaurin's talent. Jaden Daniels has the arm to make all the throws McLaurin needs. After years waiting for a competent quarterback, are they now going to lose McLaurin just when things can improve? But here's my concern. What if Adam Peters is playing hardball because he knows something we don't know? What if he has a plan B we haven't seen yet? What if he believes he can replace McLaurin's production with a combination of other players? I believe this is a last-minute strategy by McLaurin's agent. They're applying public pressure to force Peters' hand. But I also think Peters isn't Danny Snyder. This man knows what he's doing. Do you remember when we thought Chase Young would never leave? When we believed Montez Sweat was untouchable? Peters has shown he's not afraid to make tough decisions, but this is different. McLaurin isn't just a player. He's the symbol of everything that's been right with this franchise during the dark years. And you know what worries me most? McLaurin might miss training camp just when he needs to build chemistry with Jaden Daniels. Rookie quarterbacks need reps with their main receivers. If McLaurin isn't there, how will he develop the connection we need to be successful? But here's my deeper analysis. I believe this will get resolved. Why? Because the Commanders have invested too much in this season to let McLaurin slip away. They brought in Dan Quinn, drafted Jaden Daniels, improved the offensive line. That entire plan falls apart if they don't have a number 1 wide receiver. My prediction, they'll reach a deal for something like $27 to $28 million a year for 4 years. They won't reach McLaurin's $30 million asking price, but they'll be close, and it will have enough guaranteed money to keep him happy. But what if it doesn't get resolved? If McLaurin really doesn't show up to training camp, then we're witnessing the beginning of a crisis that can ruin our entire 2025 season. And after decades of suffering, we can't let that happen. Now I ask you, do you think Peters will let McLaurin miss training camp? Or will they reach an agreement in the coming days? To recap, Cowboys humanity, Martin future, McLaurin crisis. 3 pieces of news completely defining the Commanders' landscape right now. I guarantee tomorrow we'll have more explosive news on these situations, especially about McLaurin. Do you think Peters will give in to McLaurin's demands? Or do you believe Martin could be our next defensive player of the year? And what do you think about showing respect to the Cowboys in this tragedy? Let me know everything in the comments. Give a like, If you think McLaurin deserves his 30 million, subscribe. If you think Peters has a master plan we don't understand yet. And if you're new to this channel, welcome to the most passionate Burgundy and Gold family on YouTube. This community is more than a channel. We're a family that has suffered together, celebrated together, and now we're growing together. Every like, every comment, every subscription helps us keep bringing the best Commanders content in Spanish. And remember, hail to the Redskins.